Hi, Dave Skosik here with PR Delaware. Welcome. I've got some great guests today. I'm at the beautiful facilities of Dover Downs Hotel and Casino, and in fact my first guest will be Ed Sutor, who's a CEO of Dover Downs Hotel and Casino. He'll tell us all about Dover Downs, its history, its challenges, and why it's a good place to come to. And we'll also be talking to Bob Biss, a Vietnam war dog handler who served 3 tours in Vietnam. We'll talk to him as well. Stick around. Hi, I'd like to welcome my first guest, Ed Sutor, CEO of Dover Downs Hotel and Casino. Ed, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I've known you for a number of years. You're an interesting guy, but
Yes,
you're not usually out in the public. Tell me a little bit about yourself, about your background.
Well, I'm 6'7". I'm very inconspicuous, so people don't see me out there. No, there's plenty to do here, and I enjoy this business we're in. You have to like people. You have a lot of customers, and you have a lot of employees, and that suits my personality. So I don't get out tremendously into the community, but I'm well aware of what's going on.
I know that you've been very involved. You've been very involved with helping veterans. You've been very involved with the Dover Symphony, bringing them here onto your beautiful facility, and we do appreciate that. I know there are other organizations that you reach out to help. But tell me a little bit about your own background, where you came from.
Well, born in Philadelphia, one of 7 brothers, no girls in the family. The parents kept trying for a girl, but 4 of us went to college on basketball scholarships. Believe it or not, I'm in the middle height-wise.
Oh my gosh.
My tallest brother is 6'10".
And as you mentioned, you're 6'7". We had to lower your chair down because I'm not that tall, folks.
And like I said, 4 played college ball, 1 played pro in the old ABA in the 60s. I decided to go into the accounting career and took a job in Philadelphia at Price Waterhouse. But then this new industry started in New Jersey, and it sounded exciting, so I made the leap and joined the Sands Hotel Casino back in 1979. 5 years there, then 15 years as the Chief Financial Officer of Caesars in Atlantic City.
Wow.
And then when the state of Delaware passed legislation legalizing slot machines, Dover Downs hired Caesars under a management contract, and I was one of the designated people to come down here and help build the place, design it, work with the architects, the contractors, brought some of our staff here full-time, hired, wrote policies, procedures, got them open and operating. And it was a lot of fun.
Brought a lot of money in, a lot of jobs into the area.
Absolutely.
And as you mentioned, it was 20 years ago you recently
Yes, we will have our 20th anniversary in December. And we originally started out with only 500 machines. We expanded 7 times and got up to close to 3,500 machines. The legal limit's 4,000. We also built a beautiful facility. We had to make this a destination because, believe it or not, we had the worst location of any casino in Delaware. If you're coming from New York or Philadelphia, you got to drive past Delaware Park. You're coming from Baltimore or Washington, you got to drive past Harrington. Why would you drive past those places? We needed a reason. The reason is a destination with a 4-diamond hotel, gourmet restaurants to buffets, first-class entertainment, but most important of all, first-class customer service. And I'm happy to say that we have got all of that. And I'm thrilled. You know what the best part is? In order to give good customer service, you need to be friendly. And Delaware has a lot of friendly employees, so my work's a lot easier trying to train them to give good service when they start out being friendly. So we consider ourselves blessed.
I remember when I came here in '68 via the base, this was all just being built, Dover Downs was. And I remember as we talked about earlier, I remember the steamroller on a 30-degree bank had with a tether on it so it wouldn't roll over. And I remember the Blue Hen Mall was just being built. So, so much has changed, so much improvement, so much great expansion, actually, economic development. And so you've been, for the most part, you know, for the last 20 years at least, very much part of that.
Yes, I have. Yeah, they both, NASCAR track and horse racing, both started in 1969. By the way, they'll be celebrating their 50th anniversary next year. Dennis McGlynn, my boss, came in 1972 from the Air Force Base. Well, we're planning, well, at that time, there was approximately 30 people on the full-time payroll of Dover International Speedway. Today, it's about 50. But in the casino side, we have 1,700 people who are employed directly or indirectly.
I didn't know you had that many.
Yeah, 1,400 of them are on our payroll. Another 300 are contracted folks here every day, such as our cleaning service. Delmarva Cleaning has been here 30 years, and they do a wonderful job of keeping our place very tidy. So 1,700 employees. We also do business with 400 Delaware-based vendors. We spend about $20 million a year with local suppliers. As far as those employees, we spend about $52 million a year in payroll. So that's like $1 million a week.
And that's, you know, people talk about economic impact. It's not just what people spend here, but actually that impact is like a ripple effect on the whole economy.
Exactly. Those people live nearby, they shop nearby. So the payroll that we're paying them is certainly being circulated in the community. And I'm sure that it's a big part of the success of the surrounding business community.
What are your greatest challenge these days?
Right now, the greatest challenge we have is our general partner. The operation of gaming in the state of Delaware is a 3-partner deal. It's between the state, the horsemen, and the casino. Way back when we first started, the general partner, the state, took approximately 25% of the revenues right off the top. And that was okay. We didn't have that much competition in the area. We were able to expand 7 times. But over the years, because of budget problems, the general partner increased their share 7 times to now where it's effectively 62%. And that's strangling us. Since 2007, you have Pennsylvania come on board with their casinos, and nearby Maryland. At one time, we were getting 60% of our business from Maryland. It's now down to 30%. They are cleaning our clock over there because that's where the people live. It's much easier for them to drive 15 minutes to their local casino than it is to come an hour and a half or 2 hours to our facility. So at a time when there's increased competition in the area, and we haven't gotten a significant break in our tax structure, I call it revenue sharing, it's put us in a rather precarious position.
Now, what do these other states charge their casinos as compared to?
They're all different, but in the state of New Jersey, their tax rate's 8% off the top.
8%?
8. And in, depending upon what it is, the slots in Pennsylvania is about 50%, but their tables is 14. We have the highest table game tax rate in the entire country. So
how did it get that way?
They needed the money. When they passed, in 2008, there was a $600 million deficit in the state. They passed.
That's when the nationwide economic recession began.
Exactly. And they did 4 things. They passed an income tax rate increase on all Delawareans, including you and I. They increased the gross receipts tax on businesses. They took 2% back from state employees, and they hit us with the big 20% increase on our taxes. Since that time, they rolled back the income tax, they rolled back the gross receipts tax. State employees that would get recouped their salaries and gotten raises over the year, they forgot one thing. We're still paying those rates. Now, granted, we did get a little bit of relief last year, and the state is now paying for some of the slot machine costs, which we were having to eat ourselves for many years. And we appreciate that. But we've reported losses last year. We reported losses in the first quarter of this year. We're a public company. If you go to the Google us, go to the SEC documents, what we're telling is the truth. If we don't tell the truth, then we go to jail. So there's an incentive there for us to be forthright.
And I know that just like any kind of a business or hotel, you've got to continue to upgrade whether you have the customers or not, or whether you're bringing people in or not, because you can't leave a dirty old rug lying somewhere. I mean, that might be a poor example.
That's right.
But you've got to maintain your facility. You've got a beautiful facility here.
Yeah, we did surveys for over years and years and years. Remember, 85% of our business is slots. Of that business, 60% is female. The average age is 58. When we ask them what's important to them, it's safety, cleanliness, and excitement. We've built a beautiful facility. This is very capital intensive. We spent over $300 million on this facility. But where we normally would spend $5 million a year in what I call brass and glass and carpet, just to people, we haven't been able to spend nearly that much in the past few years. Our hotel has been 8 years without being upgraded. We need to do that. And to do that's $8 to $10 million. So we're keeping it together, we're cleaning it. The folks are doing the best they can with what they have. But
And how is your hotel business? Is it mostly full?
Yeah, I mean, it's a deceiving number. It's close to 90%. And hotels are, oh my goodness, 90%. But we give away almost 75% of those rooms in order to attract casino gamblers. So for us, the amount of cash business we get isn't substantial enough to overcome the problems we have in the revenue sharing in the gaming side. But we're trying to increase that side of the business. Since we're losing the gamblers to other jurisdictions, we're trying to beef up. And
Make a shift. Okay.
Yes. So.
Well, what do you see as the short-term solution versus a longer-term solution?
The longer-term solution undoubtedly has to take a look at the revenue sharing. We can't sustain going forward like this. In fact, for the past 2 sessions, the legislature created a group called the Gaming and Lottery Study Commission.
Mm-hmm.
2 years in a row, they commit, after 6 months of public hearings and testimony from experts, they come out with recommendations. Mm-hmm. Each year they recommended that they attack these tax rates or revenue sharing to get it to put us in a more competitive position. A year ago, they only did a tiny bit. They gave us some help on the slot vendor cost. This year, unfortunately, we got nothing. Okay. Nothing. So even a group established by the legislator, made up of legislators, could not convince enough people in the legislature to give us that. They did have a challenge this year, granted, sure. But next year is going to even be a bigger challenge. There's a bigger deficit, and it's an election year.
And we hope not to have layoffs here as a result of...
We've eliminated 72 positions this year already. Okay. Most through attrition, but unfortunately we looked at all of our businesses, what makes money, what time of day it makes money, and we came to a decision that we had to let go 24 positions in our table games on the grave shift. That's the slowest time of the year. It's midweek. Mm-hmm. We still have a 24-hour operation on weekends and holidays, but 24 of those positions were eliminated. So through the first 6 months, it's a total of 72, and most of those, the vast majority, are through attrition. But that's, people are not being hired for those positions now. So.
Well, this is something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. We appreciate the time, and we'll continue watching what's going on here. Ed, thanks so much for being with us.
Dave, thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. My guest has been Ed Sutor, CEO of Dover Downs Hotel and Casino. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Hi, Dave Skozek with my next guest, Bob Biss, a gentleman from Wilmington, Delaware. Very interesting story. And we have, in a sense, a third guest sitting behind me with King, and Bob will explain that. Bob, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Tell me about yourself.
Well, I am from Delaware. As a matter of fact, when people ask me where I'm from, I'm famous for saying I'm from the great first state of Delaware. I like to give a little history lesson to identify where I'm from, but grew up here in North Wilmington in Carcroft. Dad passed, I'm an only child. Dad passed away when I was 10, so learned how to be an entrepreneur from early ages, and went off to college in North Carolina. And after my finished that junior college, I was going to transfer to a 4-year school, and I wanted to stay in North Carolina, but I needed a 3.0 and only had a 2.8, so I decided Vietnam is coming, or Vietnam is here, and the thing to do for me was to serve in the military. I believed in that, so I didn't want to be drafted.
And we kind of buried the lead here. What's the reason for King here? You were a dog handler.
I was a dog handler, absolutely, yeah. I was looking to decide what exactly I wanted to do in the military. I settled on the Army, and I settled on military intelligence until one day I saw a picture in Look magazine of a Marine on a hill on a little berm with a German Shepherd, and right away, that was on a Sunday afternoon, Monday morning, I called my recruiting sergeant. I said, "Sergeant, does the Army have dogs?" He says, "Indeed they do." And I said, "Well, I want to be a dog handler. Forget everything that I told you about military intelligence. I want to be a dog handler." He said, "Well, I get good news and bad news. Good news is I can guarantee you'll be an MP if you'll accept that, but being a dog, you've got to volunteer." And I said, "I'll accept the risk." I couldn't volunteer until I got to MP school. So I made everybody there know that I wanted to be a dog handler. And unfortunately, I had KP when they took volunteers. And the sergeant came in the back of the mess hall and he yelled for my name, and I ran up and I said, "Yes, Sergeant." He said, "Didn't you want to be a dog handler?" And I said, "Absolutely." He goes, "Well, I've got some bad news. We already took our volunteers and I've got all that I need." And it was only a few seconds. And then he said, "However, we got about that much room at the bottom of the requisition form for volunteers, and if you get your sorry butt down to the orderly room before I do, I can probably squeeze your name." And I became a dog handler.
And we should interject at this point that Bob is going to be the guest speaker when we dedicate the War Dog Memorial on August 22nd here in Dover, Delaware, 10 a.m. We were invited to come to that. And Bob has an interesting story about his dog. There's also a story, a lot of interest in dogs. I know there's a movie out right now called Max.
That's right.
Which is about a military dog.
That's
I've seen
right.
it. And I think that interest really is sparked right now with something like 5,000 dogs have been used in Iraq and Afghanistan
Right.
alone.
Yep.
So tell me about your story now that you're back in the Army, back in Vietnam, you become a dog handler. What are some of the highlights of that?
Well, the first highlight was going through the training. We had our first week was obedience, the next 2 weeks were agitation, then we had 3 weeks of scouting, of searching. And at the conclusion, to graduate from dog handler school, we had to find an individual in a deep hole in the middle of a cornfield, or sugarcane field, I should say, which was probably 8 to 10 acres in size. And by using the sense of the dog, which is pretty much smell at that point, we had to work the dog right up to the individual. We had to do it during the daytime, and then the final test, the final exam, was at night. And King and I succeeded both times without any problem whatsoever, and I'll never forget the feeling I had. I told the sergeant, I said, "Look, you send me to Vietnam, you can have the M16, you can have the 45. If I've got King, I will feel totally secure and we will not have any problems." That's how unbelievably secure I felt with having a dog.
You spent 3 tours in
I
Vietnam?
did. I spent 3 tours, and it's not because I had to, because the first tour was required and I volunteered
What year
for the
was that?
next 2. I got there in March of 1968. I left April of 1970.
God, that was when Tet was winding down.
I got there just after Tet,
And
1968.
so you were with King for all.
I was with King for all but about 5 or 6 months. I landed in Vietnam as a private. I was promoted to corporal, and at those days, corporals did not work with the dogs. So I had to get my dog up, but I didn't want to get my dog up. So I went to the company commander, and I convinced him that if I could keep my dog, should there be a problem with either one of the dogs or one of the handlers, I could fill in. And he knew exactly what I was doing.
Sure.
But he let me keep my dog until they promoted me to sergeant and put me in charge of the detachment. And then he said, "Look, there's no way, bring your dog up." And that was, it wasn't the last time I saw King. I took him up to company headquarters in Long Binh. I was in Vien Long at the time. Took him up to Long Binh, and we said goodbye. I don't know if he was crying, but I was crying.
Sure.
And but then I was sent to NCO school back to Okinawa a little bit later, and I saw him in Okinawa. and we had a good time in Okinawa. And then
What was he doing in Okinawa?
he was being
R&R?
retrained. No,
Okay.
he was shipped back to Okinawa to bring for another class
Really?
of dog handlers, and he was going to be retrained for another handler. And then when I processed out of Vietnam at company headquarters, he was still at company headquarters, and I got to see him again. Now that's all the good news.
Yeah.
The bad news is dogs at that point were considered equipment, and when we left Vietnam, we left our equipment behind, and all the dogs were left either to, well, probably to be with the South Vietnamese Army, and then eventually probably consumed.
Ouch. So I imagine to this day, obviously, if you brought the picture, and that was one of the requirements when we asked you to speak at our
Yeah.
unveiling of the dog ceremony or the dog memorial on August 22nd, you said, I need to bring my picture. I said, you better bring that picture.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I had this, I commissioned a painter in Vien Long, Vietnam to do that. I gave him a 2x3 inch, that as a photograph, 2x3 inches. He drew grid lines on it and he painted that picture. And most people think it's actually a photograph when they see it in my office, but
you
it's
still
not.
think about
It's about a 45-year-old oil painting.
oh my gosh. So that connection is really something with the
Yeah.
between a man and his dog, or in these cases, a woman dog handler too.
Absolutely.
I know
Absolutely.
they exist as well.
Look, I just turned 70, and I got to tell you, I've had a lot of jobs in those 70 years, starting when I was 10, so over the past 60 years. And that, working with that dog as a dog handler, so far is the best job I've ever had.
Oh my gosh.
And I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
I know on the memorial we used a current dog handler from Delaware Air Force Base, a Staff Sergeant Spangenberg, and his dog Rico, war dog Rico, and we were so happy that he posed for a picture, and that will be on the memorial. And I know that that'll be there forever. We hope to have him at our ceremony.
Oh, that would be incredible.
We already have interest from local and state police, the dog handlers, to be there as well. I know it'll be an emotional thing, and in fact we did it because actually people requesting from the community, when are you going to do a war dog commercial? Yeah, a war dog memorial, and the first contribution was $300 from somebody from downtown. So we said, well, we got to move ahead, and
Right.
it's going very, very well. Well, we certainly would look forward to having you there.
Well, I'm very honored to be asked to be the keynote speaker. I appreciate that.
And how I found out about you through a book
Right.
by Nancy Lynch. Tell me about that.
Well, can I just say I love the state of Delaware, and I especially love the fact that I was a serviceman in Vietnam from the state of Delaware, because they took wonderful care of us, wonderful care of us. They gave us the state flag. The News Journal hired an editor, Nancy Lynch, to be a correspondent to all the servicemen in Vietnam who wanted to write to her. I was a prolific writer because I wrote articles about the procurement, the training, and the utilization of sentry dogs in Vietnam. And it was a very popular series of letters. And she told us, someday, as we all say, someday, I'm going to turn this into a book. 40 years later, she did. It's called Vietnam Mailbag, Letters from the War by Nancy Lynch.
Highly recommend it.
It's an incredible, as a matter of fact, Ken Burns said, as far as he knows, it's the only oral history of the Vietnam War in existence.
Really?
Yes.
You know that story about Nancy Lynch, so many of us like her and respect her. She's come to a number of our events as well as other events because she really bores into what it was like then. She carries those stories.
Indeed.
And some of them were the last letters that were written. Which again makes it kind of poignant.
Yep.
But she's at most of our events. Her book is available, a beautiful coffee table book, and we hope that people come down to the ceremony on, in August, the 22nd at 10 a.m. here at Kent County Memorial Park. And we look forward to definitely having you there and recounting some of the stories and talking about King.
Oh, I'll be telling a few stories.
Good, because I know there's a lot of people that are going to be tuned in very closely who also were dog handlers,
Yeah.
and people who won't have their dogs there, but people who know exactly what it means.
Sure.
And as I mentioned earlier, there's such a great interest in war dogs, but not because of their viciousness or anything, because they saved lives.
Right.
The gentleman who I mentioned, Staff Sergeant Spangenberg, he and Rico won a Bronze Star after 2 tours in Afghanistan for saving lives by finding IEDs.
Right, exactly. Yep.
So is there anything else that you would like to add about your experience?
Well, you know, really, like I said, it totally changed my life. It was the best job that I've ever had, and I'd really go back and do it in a heartbeat.
Well, you'll meet some of your peers from there.
I
You'll
look
meet
forward to that.
not only from your time, but also from today's heroes
Right.
who go out and do this.
Right.
And not only in the military, but also from our state and local police
Exactly, yeah.
dog handlers. Bob, it's been great to have you with
Well,
me.
thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share.
We look forward to getting together next month at
Great.
this time.
Thanks so much.
Very
You
much
bet.
for being here. I hope that you enjoyed your time with us today. You had two very interesting gentlemen, Ed Sutor, CEO of Dover Downs Hotel and Casino, and also Bob Biss, Vietnam War dog handler. And again, let me promo one more time, August 22nd, 10 a.m. at the Kent County Memorial Park here in Dover. We hope to see you there for the dedication of the War Dog Memorial. See you next time.